Hey, welcome in for another episode of Sportslandia. Brian Slyke, Ray Bradley here, brought to you by the Next Professional Athlete platform, and a big thank you to Golden State Lumber for helping us with our studio setup for right now.
Oh, yeah.
Big news, flag's back up.
Back up.
Been down for a couple weeks.
There's the flag.
Somebody took the TV off the wall.
Who could it be?
I don't know who it could have been. There is a brand new TV in my office, though.
It's weird. It's weird how that happens.
Yeah, I don't know how that happens. Anyways, so we're back in business for another week. Going to be pretty NFL heavy this time around. I've got a lot of questions that I want to ask after, I would say a pretty good week of NFL football. A lot of some surprises. You know, your team was on bye, so it was probably a nice relief to get away from all of that.
God, that was nice.
We'll talk about Fantasy Sandbag, kind of recap what happened last week since we had a couple of Monday night starters that still had to go. That also leads into Sandbag for this week. We got Not the Onion and the Nerd Corner as well.
Full show.
So, yeah, let's just jump right into it. Let's talk about the atrocity that is the New York Jets right now.
Yes.
They lucked into a win.
This is a good week.
Right? They lucked into the win against the Buffalo Bills in week one.
Oh, okay.
Let me recap here. Jeez.
Right, sorry.
In week one, with that punt return as time was winding down, everybody's like, well, I guess Zach Wilson did enough to keep him around. Well, it's 10 weeks later, and he did not fare well. He got replaced by Tim Boyle, which I don't know if you've ever looked at Tim Boyle's stats. I don't think...
I try not to.
Well, not just in the NFL, but even in college. I'm not sure how he's an NFL quarterback. He was UConn's quarterback, and I don't think they ever had a winning record, and I'm pretty sure...
Yeah, that's a basketball program.
Yeah, he's got more interceptions than touchdowns in his college career.
I don't understand how somebody gets drafted at that point.
Well, he wasn't drafted, but he was, Aaron Rodgers' backup forever. So now Aaron Rodgers is in New York, so it's just like, I guess we'll bring the guy over that knows our offense. But he's
friends with Rodgers. Okay.
Friends with Rodgers, friends with Hackett.
Yep.
So,
that's how you build the team. That's good.
Yeah, totally. But I guess the real question is, who do the Jets move on to? You've passed the trade deadline. Zach Wilson, no Josh Dobbs. Who are you signing off the street? We saw earlier this week that Joe Flacco had a tryout, which, I mean, I don't know if he wants to go back to New York.
Yeah, they already did that.
He was pretty vocal about, not wanting to play again, and I think that was more just I don't want to be with the Jets.
Sure.
This was the end of last year where he's like, I'm good with being a backup, but you can't even get Carson Wentz now because he signed with the Rams. Not that he's a great viable option or anything like that.
They
but
lost Mike White, who was their decent backup.
Yeah,
last time this happened with Zach Wilson.
Flash in the pan. He did all right at times, but is there even a QB on the market right now that would possibly help you?
Nope.
Yeah, I can't fathom where they're gonna go with it. It's not now. Granted, Tim Boyle is not gonna be your answer for.
I don't know if they have an answer. They had their chances. They should have probably done this 3 weeks ago. We all kind of saw it, and they just were like, "No, we're sticking with it. No, we're sticking with it," until they just literally couldn't anymore, I guess. And now it's too late. Yeah, unless you're signing some old, basically retired quarterback to just come in and play. Are they going to call Phillip Rivers and see if he's still coaching his high school team or if he can play for them? That. I mean,
that's got
pretty desperate times.
I mean, here's your desperation times right now. You've got Matt Ryan, who you could call out of the booth.
Intriguing, I guess.
Colt McCoy, who's just been the experienced backup forever that was in Arizona for a while.
Doesn't move the needle too much.
I don't think any of these names are going to move the needle. No. You got Joe Flacco, Nick Foles.
Yeah, we've tried that a couple times in different places. Didn't quite pan out.
You could always go with Trevor Siemian, who they have signed initially after the injury.
Could have done that maybe 3 weeks ago. I would have been intrigued.
Yeah. Then you got Bryce Perkins, a guy who played a game last year for the Rams.
Okay, yeah. He's like a running guy.
Yeah. You got Jake Luton, who played for the Jaguars before they got Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're getting pretty deep into the barrel here.
There's you can't trade for anybody right now. What are you going to do?
They're just going to keep losing, and they're not going to make the playoffs. I think that's the most likely scenario here.
Then there's EJ Perry from the USFL, who helped the Michigan Panthers reach the title game. But
okay,
there's that, and he's got like the most game action as of late than any of these other guys. So it's just like for the Jets, you're in a rock and a hard place. CFL just ended. The CFL just ended. Do you sign somebody from the CFL?
Maybe.
I mean, you could.
I don't know.
Honestly, what I would like to see is they had a guy on their roster during preseason, Strevler.
Okay.
And he was sort of in the rotation to possibly play last year, but then they just decided to stick with Wilson, and then they went with Mike White and then Joe Flacco. But
yeah,
this Strevler played great in the CFL with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, has made a name for himself in the CFL.
Okay.
And honestly, I think he's more athletic than Zach Wilson, and at least has a competent arm. That would be like my only real suggestion. And you've had him in the building before, so it's not like he has to learn a whole new playbook. But that really seems to be the only option.
Yeah, and that is such a kind of high variance shot in the dark that somebody like that will come in and actually do it. Like the situation they're in, literally a Josh Dobbs type, someone who can just come in and game manage for them and keep the glue of the offense together, because they hypothetically have good skill positions and other things going on that offense and a great defense. They just need to have some competent quarterback play. So like taking a dart throw on a lot of these guys doesn't make sense. But then honestly, like the Matt Ryan thing was the only thing that really even raised an eyebrow for me. And I don't think that gets them where they want to go anyways. But it seems like it's probably a lost season for the Jets. Seemed that way when they played the Bills last time, and this is now the second time they've played the Bills, and the quarterback still didn't finish the game either. So I probably headed downriver from here, I would have to guess.
Yeah.
The Bills are still outside of the playoffs, even with that win.
Yeah, I know. It's just like for the Bills, they're just trying to get anything going right now. Now, Strevler was on the team during the summer and then was let go after he hurt his thumb. So kind of similar like to what Justin Fields had been dealing with lately. But that was at the beginning of the season, so that was 11 weeks ago. Like, he's healthy, ready to go.
Yeah.
Like, do you just take a flyer to have him on your roster? I have a hard time believing, one, you're going to bench Zach Wilson for Tim Boyle, and Tim Boyle is going to be your starter the rest of the year.
I mean,
you're just folding it in.
They've been pretty complacent with the quarterback changes so far, right? They've had Zach Wilson playing for their team for 10 weeks and did nothing about it. Now they can't do anything about it. I'm not that inclined to think that they'll make that many major moves to change anything. They haven't been that active in trying to fix this problem, and now they have just so many less resources to fix it. So I do kind of anticipate Tim Boyle playing it out, or they'll bring Zach Wilson back again, because they keep flip-flopping on that anyways. So
yeah, I mean,
I don't think it matters.
If I was the Jets, if you're not going to bring in somebody, then I would say just stick with Zach Wilson. I think I wish these words were not going to come out of my mouth right now, but he gives you the best chance to win over Tim Boyle. I mean,
yeah, he does. But it's not much of a chance either way, as we saw this week when they got completely blown out by the Bills, even with that defense. So.
Yeah. Well,
that was far too long talking about the Jets.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the other quarterback that's playing in New Jersey right now, and Tommy DeVito.
Oh, okay, good. We're starting hot.
Yeah, we're starting hot now. We're going to the Giants game against the Washington Commanders.
I'm so glad they won this game.
Tommy DeVito.
I love it.
3 touchdowns in the 31-19 win. No interceptions. He's got 5 touchdowns right now through 2 starts. That's more than Zach Wilson's had all year.
Yep.
That's more than any other quarterback that has played in New Jersey this year. That's Boyle, Wilson,
sure,
Danny Dimes, Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
So is Tommy DeVito for real right now? Right now being the key phrase.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about a team that's in trouble right now in the New York Jets, but then here are the Giants just across the way, probably sharing the same locker room, let's be honest. And
sharing the same lottery balls almost at this point.
Yeah, and you get Tommy DeVito, an undrafted quarterback who steps in for 2 injured Giant quarterbacks right now.
Yeah.
And he leads them to the win. 246 yards and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Did what he needed to do.
Yeah.
He made a good pass to Saquon, I saw, and looked like a long wheel route. Yeah, it's certainly more interesting than a Tim Boyle scenario. But I got to say, as a Pats fan sitting on the bye, where we're playing the Giants next week, I loved seeing them just get this win. that was great because now they are just at that 3-win mark, a little further back from the pack, which is the pack seems to be getting smaller and smaller, and it sets up well for that the completion of the Giants Patriots trilogy next week when we both play each other in a tanking matchup. So
let me tell you,
one time I'll actually be rooting for them to beat us.
Yeah, right. I was about to say, how tragic would it be if New England were to win and then Bears continue to lose like they lose.
It would be consistent with our matchups with them. We always seem to lose out.
So all three of us would be at 3-9.
Mm-hmm.
At 3, 4, and 5 in the draft right now, and we're all kind of waiting on Arizona. I think Arizona's not going to end up finishing as the number 2 team in the draft.
They almost won this week. The Bears almost won this week. The Giants did. It feels like it's going to be Panthers Patriots up there pretty soon here, unless we get some miraculous plays or something, or the Will Grier start really pumps it into the offense or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, that matchup will be interesting next week.
Is he rumored to start next week?
It's a toss-up right now. They're playing the Crane game. We'll see what they come up with at the end, but it has not been set, and they've had a whole bye week to look at it. So that tells you all you need to know about that. But yeah, good on the Giants. Seemed like the Commanders were turning it over a ton.
Yeah, 3 interceptions for Sam Howell.
Certainly helped a lot. I mean, that
and
comes with
3 fumbles as well. So 6 turnovers.
But all DeVito did was not turn it over and throw to Saquon. You can do enough if your defense is doing that much. But what does it get them? I don't know. It doesn't really help them, I feel like. It hurts them in their chances of getting a high pick, so I love it. But good for the kid. We'll see what he can do.
Yeah.
He's got a chance, I guess, to do something. I mean...
if anything, it's a tryout for teams going into next year. Just because he's an undrafted guy.
And we'll see with Daniel Jones contract.
The Daniel Jones contract, you could also just see him being the backup in New York. Cut ties with Tyrod Taylor and save money any way that you can if you're the Giants. The one thing that stood out to me though, and more credit to Tommy DeVito, staying in the pocket. Now, he took 9 sacks, which normally you'd get some happy feet when you're back there, when you're seeing that much pressure in your face. But he stood his ground. 3 touchdowns, again, 246 yards.
Stood his ground a little too much, maybe.
A little too much at times. But why I say that, though, is you get happy feet, and then you're throwing off your back foot, and you're throwing interceptions, and all you're thinking about is the rush, not trying to push the ball down the field. But that didn't seem to affect him as much.
Yeah.
The Commanders' defense can be tough at times. Now, they did trade their 2 pretty strong defensive linemen, in Chase Young and Montez Sweat. But they've been giving teams fits at times. So, but Tommy DeVito, again, 31-19 win over the Commanders. Good on the young guy.
That's your fantasy sandbag.
That is my fantasy sandbag quarterback. It did not go well. And we'll talk about that going forward.
Jags blow out the Titans. Nothing to say there.
Yeah, nothing really to say there. Is Russell Wilson back? Fourth quarter numbers prove that he's been the most efficient quarterback in the league. He's got his team on a 4-game win streak right now. Now, the offense does sputter. Their defense is definitely back. Their offense has sputtered at times to where they just can't seem to get in the end zone, but their defense held them in this one, and Russell Wilson did enough to get the ball to everybody. Jerry Jeudy had a decent game.
Yeah, it's been good for them.
He had a huge touchdown catch.
Javante's been good. It's weird. I mean, he has not been as bad as he was last year. I think that much has been clear. He's sort of somewhere back in the middle of the pack. He beat Josh Dobbs, so I mean that says a lot. Not a lot of people have been able to do that this year. Is he back? I suppose. I don't know. I don't think he's he's not a top 5. He's maybe trying to sneak into that top 10 range. So he might.
I would say if he gets back in the top 10, I would consider him somewhat back because of the huge drop off that he had last year.
Yeah.
It seems like Sean Payton is maybe getting some of his message across to thick-headed Russell Wilson, who kind of wants to run his own show and not follow anybody's lead.
He is the system, yeah.
Who said that the other day?
James Harden.
Yeah, that's what it was.
He's not quite on James Harden levels, I'll give him that.
But yeah, Russell Wilson, the Broncos, I believe they're 5-5 now.
They sure are.
After 4 straight wins, so they're kind of making a name for themselves. And in the AFC West, I mean, the Chargers aren't doing anything. You got the Chiefs obviously still in front of you, but Raiders aren't doing anything either right now with a rookie quarterback. And so you think, well, maybe they could back into the playoffs, because right now they currently sit.
Unfortunately, those other AFC West teams aren't going to be their competition to make the playoffs, but they are sneaking their way into sort of relevancy.
I mean, I think they would be more relevant than the Colts.
Yes.
Who currently sit one spot ahead of them, and then it's the Bills who are on the outside looking in.
That would be the team I'd probably be more worried about.
Yeah, that's kind of the last AFC team that I thought was probably going to make a push for anything, but it is what it is.
Rising.
They're what? They're rising, yeah.
It's all right on this playoff picture, rising up 4 wins in a row. So, yeah. And with the Bengals kind of done, the Burrow injury, that kind of takes them out of it. I would still expect if anybody of these bubble teams would probably be the Bills, but they've been up and down too. They fired their OC because the head coach wasn't going to fire himself. Yeah, because he put 12 men on when they were trying to defend a field goal. I don't think that was the offensive coordinator's fault. But
no, but everybody needs a scapegoat.
It's helpful. It's helpful.
It's weird how
he's running out of them.
In 2 years things have kind of switched in Buffalo because everybody was like, "I love McDermott. I love what he's doing. He's doing great things."
Yep.
And now this year it's our team's 5-5. Yeah. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, they've still got a lot of good numbers as far as their offensive stuff. It seems like it's been the turnovers that are the problem, but that was the problem originally with Josh Allen, so maybe that's rearing its ugly head again a little bit. But I think they've got a lot of offensive firepower, and if a team like the Steelers, who I don't barely understand how they win games, or the Browns, who don't really have a quarterback, or maybe it's Joe Flacco, if one of them drops down, then I think maybe the Bills can start getting into this, but we'll see. It's left to be determined.
We'll move on to our next game. This one hits a little bit more home for me. Was it a perfect result for the Bears?
Pretty much.
I mean, your defense forced 3 turnovers. You picked off Jared Goff 3 times. Young guys were playing well. Justin Fields had 169 yards passing, which, isn't...
It's the rushing.
It's the rushing, though. He had 104 yards rushing, which is old Justin, what we saw at the end of last year.
Yeah.
So he totaled for 273 yards and a touchdown. So, he played well, didn't turn the ball over. His only real mistake was at the very end, which was, their team is losing by 2 and they're trying to get down into field goal range. Got sacked, fumbled, and then I believe it was Nate Davis who kicked it out of the back of the end zone for a safety.
Yeah, that was a weird play. Yeah.
Very strange play, but... Here's the stat for you. Since 1932, no NFL team with a +3 turnover margin and 40-plus minutes of possession had ever lost that game. It was 48-0. The Bears did it on Sunday, though, because they lost. Man. They gave up, I believe they were up by 12 with 4.5 minutes left, and they gave up 14 points in those final few minutes. Now, my main gripe, I know everybody hates Matt Eberflus, and I'm not the biggest Eberflus fan. Now, the defense has played better since he took over as DC, and whatever happened with Alan Williams happened with Alan Williams.
Yep.
But offensively, Luke Getsy, what the hell are you doing? You had the ball with 2:30 left. There's 9 in the box for the Lions, and you just want to run it up the gut 2 times and then throw a deep ball on 3rd down to stop the clock? They ran 26 seconds off the clock.
Especially when you have Fields, you can be a little more creative with how you're running the ball.
That's what I'm saying.
Especially and if they're expecting it like that.
And he was making plays too, making defenders miss, because there were times when the Bears had a read option. Justin would keep it. The end would keep up with him, and then Justin would just flip his hips and go right inside of him and get, 5-6 yards and then go down to the ground. I don't know what Getsy was doing. He was clearly playing not to lose, and he played, excuse my language here, he played like chicken shit when he was trying to run that offense because you ran the ball straight. Twice in a row, and immediately it was called timeouts by the defense, so you're not using any clock, and then you went for a long 3rd down throw to Tyler Scott at the end of the game, trying to convert.
Yeah, that was wild. I hate it's 3rd and 4, let's throw a fly route 40 yards down the field.
I never understood that.
Unless you're, trying to get the PI, I never get why that play ends up happening. I'm that is... It's just so unnecessary. Throw a 3-yard drag route. It's probably going to be open.
Yeah, and it's just like, what I wish it was 3rd and 4. It was fucking 3rd and 9 because they ran the ball twice that went absolutely nowhere. So it's just frustrating for the Bears in that sense, where it's like you played arguably top 4 team in the NFL right now. You had them on their heels.
Yeah.
And you give up the 14 points in the final 3.5, 4 minutes. and you lose the game. Now it's a win for the Bears because you move up in the draft order. Now you're inside the top 5 at number 4.
Tied right up there with the Giants, with Tennessee.
Yep. Well, Tennessee 3-7 technically because they had their bye.
Yeah, so they're a little bit behind. So maybe not the perfect result based on some of the vitriol I was hearing there. But, but still good at the end of the day.
I liked how the young guys played. DJ Moore got back involved after being somewhat stagnant with Bagent in there at quarterback. Justin Fields looked more than competent, didn't take too many sacks, which has been a huge knock on him over the last year plus. And then defensively, you got the young guys involved. They were trying to make plays. They turned Jared Goff over, again, 3 interceptions, which he has not done against the Bears in his 7 other career starts.
The old Jared Goff.
Yeah. So, I'm happy that they were competitive and in this game and lost. So, like, that's where it's the perfect sense. But Luke Getsy, what are we doing here? What are we doing? That is my only gripe with this game. Like, if say you like try to burn some clock and you get under 2 minutes and then you got to punt the ball and then they score a touchdown, fine, whatever. I'm good with that. But it's just like the lack of imagination trying to run the clock down that made me more upset than anything. Not that the Bears lost. I was fully expecting the Bears to choke it up at some point because that's just what they do. But offensively, it's just, buddy, give me something here.
When you're calling plays, I should say. When you're calling plays scared, it usually does not end up going well when you're just being super conservative, trying not to lose, that is kind of almost the worst thing you can do sometimes as an offensive play caller. That certainly sounds like a better script of a way to lose than most of the past games I've watched this year, where it's just like everybody's terrible and bad and a lot of dumb coaching stuff. So at least, you're seeing some of those young guys. Maybe it's becoming more of if we continue to see this, more of a conversation whether this number 1 pick from Carolina is a quarterback or isn't a quarterback.
If Justin
we'll have to end up seeing,
if he plays like he played on Sunday and you improve the passing just a little bit more, like if you can push close to 200 yards passing and then do whatever you can rushing wise, I would say why not keep him around? You have to consistently do it now for final 6 weeks. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
You can't do 1 game yes and then 2 games no and then 1 game yes. That's still inconsistency from him.
It's in his own hands whether or not he makes a case for them to stay on with him or to move on from him.
I would love it if he was the guy and then the Bears could use that number 1 pick to possibly flip for a couple more firsts going forward, or, trade back a little bit. You still have the 4th pick right now. You never know how your season ends up if your team is just bad. But you're potentially looking at 2 picks in the top 4.
And then you start thinking maybe this is a Marvin Harrison pick. Maybe now we surround Fields
with Harrison and DJ Moore.
Like that becomes interesting as well. A lot of options. This tankathon continues to heat up. I feel like the playoff picture is continuing to become more obvious, especially in the NFC.
Solidify itself.
Especially in the NFC, I still think we just have all our teams already. The people
every team
all 4-6, like they're not catching up.
Yeah, and then Seahawks and Vikings took a loss, but you're right. Looking at the teams that are chasing,
they got two game gaps basically. I mean, the Vikings are maybe a little closer. I don't know, but I feel like they're pretty hot right now. It's just whoever wins that terrible NFC South. That's the only thing that might change. So it feels like we're getting closer there. Dolphins came back, or I should say they came back with Achane. He was out there for like 2 plays, and then he got hurt again.
Re-aggravated his knee injury that he was dealing with.
Somebody fell on his knee, and it sounded like it was largely precautionary that they didn't bring him back, which I get. But he did not come back, and they just kind of grinded out a win against the Raiders, who are kind of in purgatory right now, stuck in the middle.
All right. I have a question for you.
One big throw from O'Connell and then kind of nothing.
They had a couple big throws. One of them resulted in a touchdown of Devontae Adams. He had another one that hit Tucker that was, I think, like 35 yards or something like that. But he put up 271 yards as a rookie, 1 touchdown. Has 3 interceptions. 2 of them were one of them was pretty bad. I'm looking at the highlight right now. It was pretty bad. But then you got the garbage time ones, like the late one that he's trying to throw. You're trying to make a play.
Those I don't take as much stock into.
Yeah, but honestly, and I'm not saying this as a Purdue homer, and I've watched a ton of Aiden O'Connell games, but I thought he looked fine.
That's one of the okay.
I thought he looked fine for the most part against a pretty good Miami team.
That's why I say purgatory. They're stuck in the middle.
Yeah, I'm not saying Aiden O'Connell's going to lead you to the playoffs and you're going to win, get to the Super Bowl or anything like that. But
sure.
I think he's a better option than Jimmy G is at this moment because Jimmy G can't 100%. Stay healthy and he's a turnover machine now.
He's definitely better than Brian Hoyer.
And Brian Hoyer too, yeah.
It's the reason McDaniels got fired. He chose of the 3 quarterbacks he had, he chose the 2 wrong ones multiple times. So, and he paid Jimmy G.
Yeah, that's the worst part is you're going to have to get rid of him somehow. I don't know how much you save by cutting him or if there's even any trade market for him.
I don't know. He's a name.
There's probably some team that is desperate enough to be like, I guess we can take Jimmy G for.
I guess the Jets could have hypothetically before the trade deadline done something like that. But
could have.
Might be better off with Aiden O'Connell as well. It's hard to know.
I mean, the main problem with the Raiders' offense isn't necessarily the passing game, but their rushing attack is atrocious. Yeah. 36 total yards of rushing on 16 attempts.
Not good.
And your quarterback is throwing it, a rookie quarterback, mind you, 41 times in the game.
Yeah, not
that's way too high.
You want some support for your quarterback there, especially if he's
knock that down to 30, 33 passes, maybe get the rushing numbers up into the 20s, help your guy out. You draw the defense in and then you could take those big shots over the top like you had for Devontae Adams, for that long touchdown score. But I mean, offensively, they need to get their rushing attack going. Josh Jacobs was one of the best running backs in the league, not more than a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that still feels like a total fluke to me. I'm not gonna lie.
It's 11 weeks. It's not much of a fluke if they're not getting their offense or the rushing offense going.
I mean last year Josh Jacobs felt like a fluke to me.
Gotcha,
I don't think I realized he led the league in rushing until week 1 this year. I was like, he did? Oh, that's weird. So
they were a heavy run team with him, and then
sure. They were.
Which is weird because you had Derek Carr who...
This feels like you're returning back to normalcy a little bit more, if anything, with as far as the running game at least goes.
Yeah.
But I don't... Yeah, the Raiders are pretty irrelevant, and they'll continue to be...
100%.
A lot of teams rolled. Cowboys rolled again. They just roll these teams in half of their games.
Well, they should roll Carolina.
They should. They rolled them. The Jaguars rolled the Titans, who seemed like they packed it up.
Yeah, 34-14.
Not much going on there. We'll see if Derrick Henry gets to a new team next year.
The garbage bowl between Green Bay and the LA Chargers, 23-20. Just pick whoever you want in that one because both teams are not good. Brandon Staley definitely looks like he's going to be fired now.
Another week of saying that.
He snapped at a reporter, I guess.
I saw that. Yeah, I'm going to call the plays on defense. You don't need to ask that again.
Yeah, so I don't know. And
there's
then
a good chance that he won't have to ask that again.
True. Very true. If he's just not there.
Which that is. He should have been fired after the playoffs last year. He should have been fired after getting Mike Williams hurt in an irrelevant game near the end of the regular season last year. So, not to mention the fact that he's a defensive guy and they've been horrible at defense the whole time he's been there.
Yeah, they've not been good.
J.C. Jackson didn't work. They paid him to go play for the Patriots. It didn't work so much. There's not much of a reasoning to why he still has that job, except the most important factor: the Chargers are cheap and they don't want to pay him to fire him. So they're probably
cheap.
Keep the
they
job.
don't even own their stadium.
They'll probably keep the job for the rest of the year.
Well, yeah.
So they're going to continue to be stuck in mediocrity as well. The Packers barely get a win with Jordan Love. If Jordan Love driving down the field and beating you isn't enough to get you fired, I don't know what is. The Browns win a stinker game against the Steelers. Classic AFC North, 13-10.
Yeah, that was an all defensive game. Kenny Pickett looked pretty bad. DTR did enough to get the win for his team, but he's not your everyday starter.
He only had to score 13 points.
Yeah.
I heard a stat. I believe this is correct. Tommy DeVito has more multi-touchdown passing games than Kenny Pickett in his career. So that's tough.
Yeah, that is tough.
Because I think what does he have, 1? Or does he have 2? That's tough.
It's a good thing that we can always just go back.
He's got as many of those games as Kenny Pickett's played seasons. So it's not great.
That's pretty bad.
But yeah, they benched Najee. It looks like Jalen Warren's pretty good. Other than that, the defense is good. They have great coaching, so they can sneak these games out. But yeah, the is it Matt Canada, right?
Matt Canada,
His offense is it's been bad the whole time he's been there too. But the Steelers are pretty old school, so they'll keep him on through the whole rest of the year. They don't really change those coaching hires up.
No, but you can tell that Tomlin is pretty fed up with Matt Canada and what and the lack of offensive production. Like, you got some players there. I think Najee's past his prime, but Jalen Warren looked great as a running back. I think Pickett can be more than serviceable as a starter, but there needs to be some more imagination in the offense.
I'd like to see him be serviceable before I can say he'll be more than serviceable, but we'll see.
I think what he did at the end of last year proved that he can be serviceable, but Matt Canada has not done any favors for him to start this year, and now we're more than halfway.
The OC is tough. I do feel like he has good weapons, though.
Can only
good running backs.
That's why I said you need a more imaginative offense.
So yeah, I do agree with that.
Because that's how it's going to help you out. But man, it goes back to the whole Getsy thing. Just there's no imagination to it. Let me just run the ball up the gut a couple times, then we'll throw a slant pass. Oh no, it's 4th down. Let's punt the ball.
Yeah,
they punt the ball in, I think it was over 50%, closer to 60% of their possessions this year.
Jesus,
way too high.
That's crazy. And also crazy. I'm just realizing the Browns are 7-3.
Yeah.
Which is nuts. I feel like they keep winning these ridiculous games that they don't really have
Their defense is good.
Is just can take games over. Myles Garrett is just crazy. He's always getting almost 2 sacks a game. So I guess that's enough. They signed Joe Flacco. They have the DTR rookie. I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback, and they've had injuries at running back, obviously, but they're right. If their defense can do this, they can just make these plays, and they're in a pretty prime position to probably end up making the playoffs, which is wild. But at least Watson's not there. That's at least something.
All right, head coach hot seat. I want to hear whether you think they're fired or not.
Sure.
And then if you do think they're going to get fired, before the season or after the season.
Okay. All
right.
The coaching carousel.
Eight coaches here. Mike Vrabel.
Staying.
Yeah, I think.
Great, good coach.
I think he's a good
horrible
coach.
GM, horrible team.
Yeah, he has
offensive talent.
That's not his fault that has happened.
They traded AJ Brown for nothing. It's not his fault. Yeah. Unless it is. If that is his fault.
Well, unless he was maybe.
I kind of doubt it though. They just have nothing on offense.
No, nothing to help.
Other than Derrick Henry, who I don't think will stay there.
No, I don't think he's going to stay there either. Will Levis is a big question mark for him. The only notable receiver you have down there right now is DeAndre Hopkins, and he's on a 1-year deal. So he's not going to stay there. You haven't seen
Burks
what you wanted
really to pan out.
Yeah, you haven't seen anything out of Burks yet. You've got a 2nd-year wide receiver in Kyle Phillips, who I guess is doing something, but he's a slot guy. He's never going to be your number one.
Let's go to the next coach. I don't even want to.
Well, I'm just talking about Tennessee in general offensively.
As soon as we get to Kyle Phillips, that's the cutoff. We move on.
Well, that's I'm just saying, there's no offensive talent.
I agree. I do think he's a good coach, though. He'll stick around.
Bill Belichick.
Golly.
That one hits home for you, I know.
I just think it's really
time.
It's tough to say.
Could you say it's time?
I think he'll stick around. I think it's tough to fire a coach of his level after basically one bottom-out year. Considering all the other coaches who win one ring and then can bottom out for multiple years and still kind of keep it around, I think he'll be okay. The one thing I'd be curious about is if some other team comes and asks and tries to trade for him and we can get some kind of asset.
Weird. Yeah.
Then I think maybe they would listen to that a little bit, turn it over to, a Gerard Mayo or something, get a couple picks and start over. If a team like a Washington with a new owner or a Chargers who...
You want to swap coaches with Tennessee? You want Mike Vrabel?
I don't know why they would do that, honestly.
Because the Titans, then they'll do anything.
I think they're better off probably with Vrabel at this point and where they are. Belichick needs to go, if he wants to go somewhere and beat the Shula record, or if some of these teams with new owners want a big hire or a big name. The Raiders have done it 3 straight years. They just hire the biggest name on the market. Yeah. So if there's some kind of trade there, maybe. I don't think Kraft will fire him. I think that's...
I thought there was some type of weird beef going on between them right now. Is that true or not? You're my resident Patriot insider right now.
I think it's a lot easier to report on a lot of this stuff with two guys who've had a relationship for 20 years. Nobody really knows other than him and Kraft and Robert Kraft. They signed him to an extension before the season. I'm sure they're unhappy. I just don't think... The other thing is Kraft chose Belichick over Brady, so now he kind of is stuck.
Yeah.
I would say you have to roll with Belichick. You already pushed Brady out, and he would have come back, and you did push him out. So I don't really want to hear it as far as that stuff goes. I don't think he'll fire him. If this happens for another straight year, I then I think it's pretty likely. But we'll have to see. I say he stays.
Robert Saleh. I think he gets a bye. You think he gets fired? I think he gets a bye for the most part.
He's just I guess the Rodgers thing. I guess if you want to just say you get off on this,
he hasn't.
Well, maybe not that way.
Phrasing
or
there.
Maybe he does. I don't know. He just has completely bungled the quarterback situation outside of that every single time he's had a chance. So I don't.
Did he necessarily pick Zach Wilson? Did he want Zach Wilson?
I don't know, but he was there when they took him.
I know he was there when he took him.
And then he took him, and then he benched him, and then he brought him back, and then he signed someone else, and then he started him, and then he benched him now, and then he brought him. So
they brought in somebody because they knew that Zach Wilson wasn't the guy they wanted. They wanted Aaron Rodgers. I'm willing to at least give him a year where Aaron Rodgers is there. Like, defensively, the team is not bad. He's a defensive coach.
It's true. It's been his decision on this quarterback stuff, and it's been so bad and so bungled. I would just fire him. But you're right. It's not directly on him, I suppose. He is a defensive guy, and they've been good defensively. My first reaction was fire. So I'm sticking with that.
All right. We briefly just talked about this, but Sean McDermott. I think if the Bills end up with a 500 record...
Well... I don't know. How many more people does he have who he can fire around him before they get to him? That's the real question.
You got a few people.
He's running low on those people.
I mean, you've got the assistant to the assistant offensive coordinator, I'm sure.
Coach, special teams guy.
You know, you got your assistant to the wide receiver coach.
I think he'll stay because I think they'll make the playoffs. But the seat's a little hot.
Yeah, it's getting a little warm.
Seat's a little hot.
That's why I said, if they don't finish strong, they're 500. Maybe they do back into the playoffs just because, that bottom part of the AFC, anything could happen. But, if you don't make the playoffs, I think there's some serious concern because that team has the talent. But what happened with them? So, that's my only stipulation. I think he sticks around if the team makes the playoffs. If the team doesn't make the playoffs, I
still think he sticks around.
You still think he sticks around?
This team has finally started to have success after years of being in the trenches, and I think it's probably a little bit too big of a change to think they can switch to fire the head coach and maybe find somebody new and still have that. I think they'll keep him around.
If you finish below 500, which you either finish above or below 500 now with the 17-game schedule. If you finish 9-8, I bet you he's still there. If he's 8-9, I don't. I think there's going to be too much of a panic because you said the recent success, but they've had sustained success for the last 3 years. It's not like they haven't made it to the playoffs. They haven't had double-digit wins. I
think that's part of the reason he'll stay. They've had success with him in those years. So one down-ish year, you miss the playoffs. You blame it on the turnovers. You blame it on the horrible offensive coordinator you must have had to fire him midseason.
Yeah, that's another reason why I think his seat is a little bit more hot is because we already brought it up. It's just the amount of you're firing people on the side to sort of save yourself face right now, and that's always a red flag. I think within an organization, it's I gotta let somebody go here, so it doesn't seem like it's all on me.
He survived the really bad years with the Bills. I don't think an 8-9 year is going to kill him.
Well, see, I think he survived the really
Nathan Peterman.
Yeah,
he survived that, so I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, he survived that, got the team to a sustainable winning area, and now they're sort of, that you could say, a little bit of regression right here for this team. You get a longer leash when you start Nathan Peterman as your quarterback, not MVP candidate Madden cover Josh Allen. Not that the Madden cover matters, but he's the big name guy. You have your quarterback. You should be more successful than it is. That's the only reason why I'm more hesitant in saying, I think he could get fired. If, like I said, 8-9 and you're below 500.
It's possible. I do not see it at the moment. I think he'll be there.
You and I both agree on this one. I'm assuming Brandon Staley gone, right?
Yeah.
There's no way he sticks around with that team.
Dead man walking for over a year now. So I think part of this too is who are these great young candidates or new candidates that you can get? If they, the Bills are going to fire someone who they've had success with. I don't know that there are that many sexy names out there right now, so that's part of it. But
I hope that didn't pick up on the microphone. My bad.
But I think Staley's out. I mean, he certainly should be. It depends, I guess, how much they'd have to pay him if they want to just keep
I think anything's
Being
worth it to
cheap.
get rid of him right now.
Well, they're pretty cheap. So
There's a lot of cheap teams out there.
Riverboat
How about
Ron?
he's on the list. I'm getting down there.
Okay.
First year head coach with this team, Frank Reich, with
Pretty
the Carolina
tough.
Panthers.
I think he'll probably get fired. It's a new owner.
I think he will too.
And the owner took the quarterback, and now the coach is not doing well with the quarterback. So
I would say it's not on him that he gets fired. Like a little bit, yes, he is the head coach, so like you run that team.
Yeah, but he wanted you're right, because he wanted Stroud. It seems like.
Yeah, and then Tepper was the one who's like, well, I want Bryce Young.
And so they took Bryce Young, and it looked really bad. But also, I mean, even if they'd had Stroud, no, it probably would have been better. But
you would at least probably have more confidence that guy might be
like the offense is still
guy.
Like pretty.
Like Texans set up Stroud
deficient.
nicely with some talent outside. Yeah. They had somewhat of a running game behind him already. Where like Bryce Young has Chuba Hubbard, who was in his third year, who had never really been a starter until Christian McCaffrey left.
Yeah.
You lost your top wide receiver to a trade to the Bears, DJ Moore. You brought in 37-year-old Adam Thielen, who's not going to be there for... He's been good, but he's not going to be there for a long time, is my point.
Yes.
DJ Chark, often injured.
Doesn't play.
And then Mingo hasn't done anything for you really either as a receiver. So he hasn't had the weapons, say, that Stroud has had as a rookie to help him balance that offense a little bit better. But I think...
It's still been horrible.
Oh, absolutely. I think Stroud, had he been in a Carolina uniform, I don't think we'd be seeing the amount of success that he's having right now with Houston, but I think he still would have shown you flashes of this is the guy that we want to go to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Bryce Young just has not really shown that lately.
No. And the past, I think, couple of years of quarterbacks with Frank Reich, I don't think helps his case as far as some of the
especially as a
choices he made
former
with
quarterback
Indy
too.
And how that all went. So I think he gets fired.
Okay, so fired after that one. Riverboat Ron. Yeah, I think he's gone. He
should have been fired last year.
He honestly, you take out that 15-1 Carolina year where they made it to the Super Bowl but lost.
Yeah.
He's got a losing record. So like he
seems like a much nicer and better guy than a coach.
Yeah, I would love to have him as my DC. I don't know if I want him being my my head coach anymore.
I definitely don't want him as my head coach. He was like a nice guy during a time where Washington was desperate for any kind of nice guy news. So in that sense, I guess it was all right. But yeah, I mean, they're not going anywhere with him at fire.
Yeah, I think he's gone. You could easily replace him with your offensive coordinator now too. Eric Bieniemy's already there.
I think they're a Belichick potential suitor.
Yeah. Okay.
I do think with the new owner.
Final one. You know where I stand on this, most likely. Matt Eberflus.
Yeah, fired.
Yeah, 100%.
He's had plenty of time.
What's up your sleeve?
Huh?
you didn't hear about that with Matt Eberflus? Oh, on the Thursday night game a couple weeks ago, came out from halftime. Like, oh, what are you planning on doing? He's like, oh, we got a couple things up our sleeves. Didn't run anything special. And then in the post-game presser, somebody goes, so, Matt, what was up your sleeves? And he just goes, what's up your sleeve? And that was it. I want you fired. I'm sorry. I just want to go.
Right there.
There's nothing new to report for me. I mean, I just feel like he's gone. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, it's been pretty bad.
I think he's got 5 wins as a Bears head coach.
It's not very good.
In 2 seasons.
He'll help them get a couple good picks, and then he'll be gone.
And that'll be it.
Bring back Lovey.
I don't think I want to bring back Lovey. Although I do think, I don't know. They got stagnant in his final year, and I see why they fired him, but it's been all downhill since. All right. That wraps up the NFL section of stuff.
Somehow we don't talk about the Texans, though. Beating the Cardinals, C.J. Stroud, Tank Dell explosion. They're in the playoff hunt.
Well, C.J. Stroud looked like a world beater in the first half, and then he threw 3 interceptions in the second half. What do you want?
Still got his team to win?
Yeah.
Tank Dell?
Yeah. We did talk about them. We talked about how the Cardinals lost again, and they're in second place.
I don't want to talk about the Cardinals. I want to talk about the Texans.
No, I don't want to talk about the Texans.
I think that we'll have chances to talk about them in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
They snuck a win out.
We'll have plenty of time. So let's move over to Sandbag. Last week, it's a victory for me. You actually had 13.3 points from James Cook, even though he fumbled. And then he still...
Twice. He picked one of them up. He was running through the secondary, dropped the ball, and it bounced right back into his hands, and he kept running.
Yeah, so he ended up with 13.3 points. You were already losing at that time. I had Shakir, who ended up with 3.66 points. Did break the 50-point threshold. I won 52.66 to 68.7. That is a 3-week winning streak for me right now, and puts the overall record at 6-4 in my favor of having the worst teams so far. But this week, I'm already willing to chalk up a victory for you, unless like Jake Elliott misses 4 kicks and Pacheco fumbles a couple times. But you currently sit 4 points below me, and I still have 3 players to go. You have 1 player to go. You had to replace Kyle Pitts. He picked up Granson. He didn't play.
Who was on bye, so I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So I picked up somebody who's playing tonight.
Yeah, you picked up the backup tight end for the Eagles.
I was like, oh no, I'm going to have to pick Kelsey or Goddard. I'm screwed. And then I was like, oh, Goddard's out. All right, I'll take... Yeah,
you went with the backup. You went with the coward's way out.
I don't even... What? I'm not going to take Kelsey.
Why not? Grow a pair. Will you?
I'm here for the win, which is the loss. So... I can't even remember who it is I'm taking on the Philly. It's like some guy named Cole.
Jack Stoll.
Yeah.
Jack Stoll, so, you're picking up.
You know,
and then good. Michael Thomas was on by for you, so you picked up Alan Lazard.
So happy.
He put up a goose egg for you. AOC had 10 points. James Cook had 17.4 points. Those are your 2 high scorers. My high scorers at the moment, Tommy DeVito, 17.94 points with his 3 touchdowns. And then Shakir, 19 points for the Bills.
Boomer bust.
Boomer bust, I guess. I picked up Isaiah Pacheco. I'm pretty sure I picked a different running back during last week, but I don't remember who it was. So I'm going to roll with Pacheco because we're Monday night now. So that's what it is. Alec Pierce was on by. I do remember picking up Valdez Scantling again.
Yeah.
So he is going to be there. And then my kicker, Rylan, excuse me. Might as well be Nyland. I don't know his real name. He was on bye for the Patriots. I don't remember picking up a kicker, so I picked up Jake Elliott because he's Monday night. So I've really screwed myself with these not fully paying attention to these games. You know,
only one person you can blame.
I know. I can only blame myself. It's just, you know.
Well, good. I needed this week. I think I'm pretty locked in with my receivers now. Like Mooney and Lazard, they got 2 points this week?
Well,
combined?
Mooney's going to be on bye in a couple weeks, so you're going to have to pick a new one.
All right, well, receivers...
And Thomas is hurt,
an easy one to do. Well, yeah, we'll see. I did almost want to argue. So I had Najee Harris.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks I should have got to keep him because...
He was in your lineup. What are you talking about?
He was?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I had to pick somebody new.
Well, he wasn't announced.
He's no longer the starter.
He wasn't announced the starter until like the day before the game, so I wasn't really going to make that.
There is an argument to be made for this mode as well that like that's why you're picking people, and that I'm picking Najee Harris because I think he's going to lose the job, and now he has, and I should reap the rewards. He's still playing. He didn't get hurt. He's not on bye.
Well, see, like I picked up Pacheco, and I could have picked up whoever their backup is, Jerick McKinnon.
Well, I mean, at the moment you pick somebody up, they need to be a starter. But I think they're part of the investment in that is picking somebody who may lose the job down the road, and now you have somebody who's not playing as much, and it's like, here we go, I did nail that pick. But I mean,
he still played 57% of the snaps this week, so.
Well, sounds like I'm going to keep him then, I guess.
I mean, I'm not fighting you for it.
A little bit.
I'm not fighting you on it until he goes like below 40%.
Okay.
Because that was your beef with a couple of my receivers I was thinking about picking up. It's like, they're technically starters, but they're like, oh, well, he's only playing...
You chose Marvin Mims.
that was my third receiver, yeah. And that was only if the guy was not going to play. I never actually put him into my lineup.
Sure. That was just the one where I was like, oh, I mean...
Well, you made us think about Juju, and Juju is a starter for New England, and you were like, well, he's not playing more than 50%. It's like, well, he's the starting wide receiver. What do you want out of me? I'm not the one who picks those things. You made us think about it, so I'm letting you know.
By the stink. But I'm letting you know. I still say that's when you're picking them up, they should be a starter.
He's still a starter.
Well, at the time, I would argue he was not.
He's still a starter for him. I can't help that New England's offense is atrocious. Okay,
I can't either.
That's my only.
That's why I didn't at the start of the year when you picked him up, he was a starter. But
he is still a starter.
You had to pick him up again. I don't necessarily.
He's
think
still a starter.
There was a couple weeks there where he was at like 30% snaps. That's a little tough to sell me on. I do think he's kind of back to there now. Like if you ask for him this week, I do think he's probably back to starting.
Don't even give me that.
But there was a period there he got hurt. He went on bye. The only reason he's a starter is because Kendrick Bourne got hurt. If Kendrick Bourne was still playing, and Devontae Parker,
man is still a starter. Just saying.
Because Bourne got hurt. If he wasn't, he would still be a backup because there's a huge middle section where he literally was not a starter. That's all I'm saying. And at some point in that, I think you tried to get him, and I was like,
it was last week.
I don't know.
It was last week.
Yeah, based on what we'd seen, he was not a starter.
It was last week. It's not like I asked for him 3 weeks ago and you felt that way. It was last week.
I stand by it.
Oh my gosh. All right.
There's plenty of
no buys next week though. No buys next week, so we don't have to pick anybody.
Sure.
Week 13 we're gonna have to pick up. You're gonna have to pick up a new defense after week 14 though.
Okay. Yeah, I've been writing. Maybe I'll get Carolina or something.
I'm gonna have to pick up a new quarterback. Like I'm looking at the Giants are gonna be on bye, Vikings, Raiders. You're gonna have to pick a new quarterback.
Yep.
AOC is going to be on bye. You're going to have to pick a new receiver because Mooney's going to be on bye. I'm going to have to pick a new receiver because Shakir's going to be on bye. I basically just have to get through week 12.
Everybody's bye for some reason is like 11, 12, 13.
It's always the bad players that we're picking up right now.
I don't really understand. But then there's like a week 4 early in the season where nobody has a bye, or week 6 or something. It's like, why aren't we using this?
Yeah, it was week 8. There were no buys.
That's really stupid.
Yeah, very strange.
But they have buys on week 14, which like screws half of all of the fantasy community because that's when playoffs start.
It was weird. So first 4 weeks, no buys, and then
which I get.
Yeah, no, I get that too. And then no buys week 8 and week 12.
Don't get that at all. That's very dumb.
So
why would you want to buy in week 14? Especially if you're like Carolina or Arizona, you're like, we're going home in 3 weeks. We don't need a bye.
Yeah, right.
We're good. Like, give that to me in the middle of like a week 8 or week 12. Those are like ideal bye times, right? And nobody has a bye then. Like,
in the middle of the season? Are you serious?
Oh, you don't want to break it in the middle.
No. Why would you want?
You want a week 5 or week 14, right, guys? That's what half the freaking NFL feels like. It's on bye week 13. Maybe that's just my fantasy team. It's hard to tell.
But, that is my team as well. Yeah, week 13 is going to screw me.
Yeah. I don't know how that happened.
All right. Any other NFL nuggets you want to talk about?
Not particularly.
All right. We're going to move on to...
Except that tonight's going to be a fun game, hypothetically. Monday night.
Eagles Chiefs. Yeah, that actually will be a pretty entertaining one. I feel like it's been a while since we've had a good prime time...
Or not the Swift Bowl, Kelsey Bowl.
Well, it could be the Swift Bowl now, too.
I mean, yeah, there are a couple Swifts that are going to be at the game, too, I'd imagine. Yeah. A couple.
So that'll be a good one. It's going to be a heavily defensive matchup. I'm interested to see how the Chiefs' offense does against the Eagles' defense, because the Chiefs' offense has... I don't want to say they've struggled, but they haven't been as strong as they've been in, years past.
They kind of have struggled, yeah. They just don't have... They've been trying to roll the dice on these receivers, and it's not really working. Like,
I think they've found a small diamond in Rashee Rice.
I guess.
But that's about it now.
That's it. It's that.
Like, Valdez-Scantling isn't doing anything. Yeah, it's just Kelsey hooking up with Mahomes.
Yeah.
But, like, who else is even there right now? Like,
Sky Moore kind of plays, not really anymore, it seems like.
Like, he's there.
Yeah. Valdez-Scantling is like the number one guy almost. I don't even know.
Yeah, so like I don't know. There's a lot of question marks for that offense. I'm interested to see how they're going to go up against the stout Philly D. They've had holes sometimes in their defense in games, so like it's really which Philly D are we going to get?
Yeah.
But I think this actually should be a pretty good matchup.
Yeah, it's starting to kind of feel like Philly's even a little bit more well-rounded here. It's just like, can Mahomes pull some magic out is probably going to be the one trump card that Kansas City might be able to pull. So, because Philly, they're so big and strong, both sides, the tush-push, they kind of...
Tush-push, the defensive line is good.
They're rolling, so it's, unless Mahomes can pull some magic out of a hat, I do feel like it would probably lean Philly's way.
Prediction?
That's what that was.
No. Score.
31-27?
Wow, that's a pretty high-scoring game. Okay.
Well, I mean, you say that's going to be good defenses, but these are also still good offenses.
Yeah,
as well.
oh yeah.
So
I was thinking 27-23.
Who?
Philly.
Okay.
So we're both on Philly tonight.
Yeah.
Watch it blow up in our face, because I don't think we've ever been right on our prediction yet. So.
No, never in my life.
Our MLB predictions were awfully wrong.
I said that was with my heart, though.
That's true.
Most of those. We've been at a lot on the board. But yeah, I don't know if that's in Philly or Kansas City. I'm not sure. But pick a Philly. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's kind of all I got for NFL and for fantasy as well.
All right. Not the onion time.
Oh, yeah.
Ready to hear.
What time is it then? If it's not the... Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Hit me.
So not the onions when I read actual headlines. These are not made up. I'd love to just hear your thoughts.
Courtesy of
Reddit.
Oh, okay.
Courtesy of Reddit.
All right. Shout out Reddit.
82-year-old woman calls police on caretaker threatening to kill her. The police end up complimenting the caretaker on firearms and leave. Caretaker kills woman 4 hours later.
Jesus.
Incompetence. I don't understand.
This is America.
Right? I don't understand how that happens. This one might be up there as my favorite headline so far because there's somebody else that I know that has also thought this. An American woman said she was shocked to discover that Alaska isn't actually an island, calling for an overhaul of the school curriculum.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
How do you not know that? I always see it on the maps, and it's always just by itself, by Hawaii.
This is America.
I don't understand any of that.
Getting a bit of a theme so far.
People can't access their AI girlfriend because the service went down after CEO jailed for setting his apartment on fire.
Okay, this is Japan. This is very much more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that seems about right. Plane forced to return to JFK airport after horse on board gets loose.
Wow.
I would love to have seen how that horse was running around.
Interesting. Loose
it's got to be below.
Plane.
It's got to be below, right?
Like shipping horses in the cargo area of planes? I guess I've
mean,
never thought about that.
You're not going to put it with the people, right?
Well, no.
I
didn't even think you'd put it on a plane at all. I thought somebody would just haul it across the country on a trailer.
On a trailer, yeah. I don't know. This kind of shows kind of what the renting market is like now. A Toronto realtor says the rental market is unhinged after someone lists the other half of their bed as a rental property.
Oh, those poor landlords. Oh, man.
Oh, so much pain. No.
Oh, man.
Tennessee man arrested for DUI and meth while driving lawnmower Santa's train full of kids.
Oh, my God.
That sounds like the most Tennessee headline that I've ever heard.
Yeah, is that or Florida for me?
Yeah. Police on British Columbia Island respond to reports of mysterious screaming. They found a sad goat.
That one I like. That's pretty good.
Tasmanian woman tells office she can't come in as a 600-kilogram Neil the Seal is blocking her car from leaving the driveway.
Wow. I gotta remember that one.
Yeah. And then, any guesses on Brown Friday?
Brown Friday.
What that would mean to you?
I would prefer not to guess based on where my mind is
The
going.
day after Thanksgiving is the busiest day of the year for plumbers.
Oh, boy. Wow, okay.
Extra work for everybody at
That's
the family
hilarious.
houses as they get together for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So Brown Friday is a day of torment for plumbers.
Brown and black that day.
That's true. Yes, that is very true. And that's it. That's all I've got for Not the Onion this week.
Pretty good.
There were a few in there that I thought were fun. Some of them a bit more serious. The caretaker one, I saw that one a few days ago, and I was like, how do you get nice guns? All right, we're going to leave. And that's it.
It sounds like some police work there. I don't know.
Not great.
Sounds kind of standard in a lot of ways.
And then the horse one. I mean, that one just perplexed me. How did it get loose? Was it running around the base of the plane?
Was that just like the Denver Nuggets team playing, and that was Jokic?
No, it's just Jokic trying to bring his horses with him. Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
I could think of.
And this brings us to our final segment of the week, Nerd Corner. I know you've got a recap of Worlds. You were texting me. They had the opening ceremonies a few days ago. You were up late for it.
God. That's so
but yeah, give us the updates.
It was like a midnight when the stream started, and then there was a lot of preamble, and then it was like, oh, they brought in like some executive people, and they're like, we're gonna get started in a couple minutes. I was like, okay, all right, here we go. I got all prepared, and then they throw up a timer, and it's like 40 minutes. So I keep waiting. Then they did the opening ceremonies, which were pretty hype, actually. It started, there was some sort of augmented reality stuff within the stadium and on stage it started with this video of this guy, whatever, he's playing on the computer, and then sees like this portal, and he's fighting with all these crazy monsters, and then he gets through the portal, and on the stage a guy jumps through the portal and is in this like the same outfit, and then he's like dancing around with all these other people.
Okay.
So they mixed it well. And then there was like, just like a giant augmented reality sort of ghost champion who like rose out of the whole crowd and like was throwing stuff at him. And then there was like lots of different props, and they brought out who are they called? New Jeans, which is like this K-pop group.
Okay.
Who did like the theme song for this Worlds. They performed as this guy is fighting this giant augmented reality kind of monster. They like basically help him defeat it, and then they roll over to like the actual stage as the like song is climaxing, and the two teams like rise out of the bottom of the stage and are standing there. So it was pretty hype.
I was gonna say that sounds pretty hype.
It was pretty hype. After that, they tossed to like this like 4 or 5 minute teaser video that they made, which was actually like awesome. Brought me to tears. It started like every person from like on each of these teams and like the journey of how they got there, and had this cool metaphor with, I forget what it's called. It was like the emoji. It's not how we say it, or not what we think of an emoji, I guess.
Not the little facial expressions on our iMessages.
Too. Maybe it was like Mogi or something, but it's this. I think it's I don't know, like a myth in the Eastern cultures of this creature that grinds and grinds. It's like a giant snake, I guess, that like is grinding towards success, and at the very end has to obtain this like giant prize, basically. And they alluded that to the trophy and these players' long journeys, and then they both like came together at the very end with this like giant serpent behind them, all staring at the trophy. So it was a very effective teaser, very effective opening ceremonies as a whole. I was a pretty huge fan of it. It was great. Got me very hyped. And then T1 absolutely blasted Weibo Gaming in 3 games, and they just destroyed them, which was pretty fun to see in its own right. I was rooting for T1 and for Faker to get his 4th championship, his first in 7 years, in 10 years since he had won his first championship at all. But this whole group, they were notorious for losing in finals over and over, regionally and internationally.
Time to blow it up.
And they were literally, like I said, like the last couple times, on the verge of blowing it up. So to actually see them all achieve their goal and win the world championship, and for Faker to get his 4th and cement his legacy as the GOAT, was pretty awesome to see. It was a fun series, even though it was a quick series. It was cool just to watch a team dominate like that in a way, and the entire opening ceremonies played into it very well. And I didn't stay up necessarily all the way to the end. I had to catch the last little bit when I woke up the next day, because it was 40 minutes to the opening ceremonies, and then those took like 25 minutes. So I was like, the games didn't start till like 1:20 or something. Like it was.
You had to go to bed, man.
It was late. So it was pretty great though. Fun Worlds. It was great to see T1 win again. No Western teams made it to, semifinals. No European teams made it to quarterfinals. But T1 was literally the only Korean team left with 3 other Chinese teams. I'm pretty sure they beat, if not eliminated, all 4 LPL seeds. So they went some crazy record, like 13-3 against all the Chinese teams there. So like they literally just ran through that entire region, and were able to hold up. And it was in Busan as well, so it was a very T1 heavy crowd, and they were able to actually pull it out and win in Korea, which was pretty great. So it was fun times, fun Worlds. We'll see where it goes next year. They're already releasing a lot of info about changing actually like some pretty substantial stuff to the game, so we'll see where it goes. We're a long ways away from that, but it was pretty successful Worlds. Pretty fun.
All right, hell yeah! Faker got their 4th. Finally live happily ever after in that one.
Yeah, the team may break up now, but
at least they ended it with a championship. Like,
100%.
It's like the Last Dance.
Yeah.
You know, had to finish it off with a victory.
Yep, they can all go their separate ways now, knowing that they did achieve that goal.
Anything else for the nerd corner you had for this week?
I mean, my actual nerd corner, I suppose, is probably I talked about. Well,
is it Spider-Man 2?
It's Spider-Man 2. I might as well talk about it now. Yeah, it's a pretty good game, pretty great, pretty fun game. Very good story. If that was like kind of the most compelling part of it, because the game itself is like very much a continuation / the same game.
As the first Spider-Man?
As the first and the second, or the Miles Morales spinoff, I guess I should say. The cool thing is it's kind of a dual protagonist story.
Okay.
Because it's him and Miles,
right?
and it's you know, you got the GTA 5 thing where you can switch to either one at any point on the map.
Okay, that's pretty sweet.
Play as them. They got different suits. They have different stories that they're kind of bouncing back and forth, and some specific side missions that only they can do. It's very good. It's pretty quality. I did a couple bugs. I guess I should say. And I was pretty happy with the story as far as how that was kind of set up. But I will say some of my problems are just like it's pretty much the same thing over again. I don't love the sequels where you just lose all the stuff you had from the first game and gain it back again by the end of the second game, and this was that in a lot of ways.
Okay, so you had to like re-get all your powers and your combos and everything else.
Yeah, and to a degree they were some different skill tree stuff, I guess, with like some different abilities for the two Spider-Men. A lot of them were just the same though, and it was like I'm just trying to get back to where I was. And to a degree that's how these games work, and I get it. They didn't have a very good like in-world reason why that was. Like it's just like you don't have any of your suits, and you gotta go get them all again. And it's like half of them are the same. They did add like some color switching to even the old ones, which actually did add a lot. But yeah, a lot of it was just. And part of this is kind of some of my issues with Tears of the Kingdom, which I'm replaying now, the Zelda game, which has some of the same issues where it's like here we are again, but you don't have your stuff. You better go get it. It's the same stuff.
You got to build yourself
up
again.
Where did all my climbing gear go? It's like it's.
I wish you could like sync the profile from the previous game and.
Yeah, or a little bit more of a continuation idea, because like some games are like very good at this, where it's like this is the next game, but there's different powers, or you lost some powers because of this in-world event or something like, and you kind of can go this. I don't want to say lazy route, but a little bit more of just like, you got to get the stuff again. And it's like, especially these games with a skill tree where it's like, you just play the game and then at the end you have the whole skill tree. It's like, I don't even really care then, because I'm not choosing something that changes my playstyle. I'm just getting them all at some point through playing the game. So it's like it doesn't really make that big of an impactful difference. But I was pretty happy with it. It was very easy to complete. Like I 100%ed the game very easily.
Really? Already?
Yeah. I finished the story, and I've only played it, I think, for like 30 hours, and I platinumed the whole game.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And there's not a new game plus right now. So I kind of have not been playing it since then. I'm kind of waiting for that.
So is that like a DLC or something?
It's just the ability to replay the game again with all your skills.
Oh,
as it was, because it's like I'd like to go through the story now again one more time.
Now that you have everything.
And now that I know where the story's going, but to do that I'd have to just start a new file with nothing again.
Oh, yeah, that's not...
Get all the stuff again, and it's like I don't really want to do that, so... Apparently they don't do those at launch anymore, so like at some point they'll patch in a New Game Plus, which I guess I didn't realize with the first one that was a thing either, because I just rolled right into it. But and maybe they'll have some DLC for this game, but yeah, the overall story was great. I actually enjoyed it quite a lot. It was all sort of Craven and Venom centric.
Okay. And
I feel pretty comfortable saying this because it's like basically the outset of the entire game. And I might have mentioned this last time, I can't remember, but they did an interesting twist, I think, in the Spider-Man world that I have not seen before, where they make Venom Harry Osborn, his childhood friend.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
They basically do it in a way where
he survived his sickness from that
because in the first game
one?
he's sick. And his dad is trying all this crazy stuff to make him healthy.
I remember that because I just finished playing that like maybe a month and a half ago.
Disease, and the opening of the second one is basically like he got the symbiote
second one as in Miles Morales?
No, the second
Or
one,
Spider-Man
Spider-Man
2.
2.
Okay.
It opens basically with the discovery for the audience or the players, I guess I should say, that he basically like found the symbiote and like merged it with Harry to keep him
Alive.
healthy and save him. And it works. So like the very intro to the game, Harry shows up again. He's like, "Hey, Peter, MJ, how's it going? It's
Thanks
good
for
to
taking
see you
care of all my
again."
stuff I need you to take care of in that first game.
Yeah, all those little bases
Side
you have to fly
missions,
around
yeah.
and do for science or whatever. Yeah, he shows up originally and he's like, I'm all better now. I'm doing good. And then like pretty quickly into the game or into the story, everybody, MJ and Peter and all them realize like, what is this crazy black thing that's on you that's like saving you, and it's like affecting your personality a little bit. And then at some point, I mean, things progress from there, but you right away, just based on how that starts, you kind of know where it's going.
Yeah.
Like, Venom's on the cover. Like,
Yeah.
but it just gives Venom like so many more interesting kind of dimensions when he's Pete's childhood friend and he's like he wants to work with him, and then there's
It's not Topher Grace.
no, it's
the
not just some
photographer,
random
or-
bully or some random
Yeah.
guy who worked with him who didn't like him at the paper or something. It's
Yeah.
like there's actually a lot more emotion built up with these two characters where they're intertwined from childhood, and then they kind of grow up and they both. It opens with them trying to work together at like this science-y kind of place and do stuff to help heal the world, and then the suit at some point gets onto Peter, and he kind of starts, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, turning bad or whatever, getting a little bit more crazy with the black suit and
Tobey
whatnot.
Maguire emo phase, yes.
And it's compelling because as soon as it comes off of Harry, like the disease starts coming back, and he's
okay.
like, I need that suit to live. And at this point, he's like black suit asshole Spider-Man. So he's like, nah, man, you're good. And just takes off. And he's like, I like this suit. It helps me be Spider-Man.
Even better.
You don't really need it. And then it's at some point, it kind of flips back onto Harry. And that's when everything actually gets to the point where it becomes sort of a full Venom. And his anger and resentment of that period is kind of built into the suit. And then the suit kind of takes that emotion and
escalates it,
does what it wants with it, and goes to a pretty crazy level. So it's a very interesting way, I think, to do that kind of story that I hadn't
100%.
ever really seen in any Spider-Man stuff before. Yeah. So, and as soon as they did that, it kind of clicked for me, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, of course, this actually is kind of genius. And the way they resolve the story and set it up for the next one, like, it just like makes that decision make so much more sense. And I don't want to get into all that, but they all that stuff is going to just build to the next one. And these Spider-Man games have been very successful. Like, I love the first one. The Miles Morales game is great, and this one is great. And they haven't even pulled the Green Goblin card at all, which is wild.
I was going to say, because the way I think about it is, Harry in the Raimi trilogy becomes Green Goblin.
Yep. Or Hobgoblin or
Hobgoblin, whatever his name ends up being. And then I don't even think, is he even around in the Amazing Spider-Mans?
Who? Harry? He's in the second one.
He's in the second one?
He shows up in the second one. He's the guy from the Chronicle movie, skipping stones with him on the beach, and then he turns into Hobgoblin at the end. I think he kills Gwen Stacy in that movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't remember much about the Amazing Spider-Man.
That is completely fine.
And then you don't even see the Green Goblin in the new Spider-Mans until the third one, and then it's William Dafoe again.
Doesn't even really count. Yeah.
Yeah, like Harry's not there, so like
Yeah, but he's like the number one sort of big bad for Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I think
to be able for this new series to, in the first one, basically, I mean, I don't, Mr. Negative, and he may be a comics guy. It seems like a very new kind of idea that they were pushing. The bad guy in the first one,
yeah.
Like, he might have some comic history. I don't know, but that very much felt like we're gonna do our own thing with this first one. In the second one, they do the Venom thing, and they tie it into the Osborn stuff.
Yeah.
And then very clearly at the end of this one, they're setting up the Green Goblin for this third one.
Gotcha,
so it's like,
okay.
I have a lot of confidence in their ability because they held off. They didn't immediately do it or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't throw them in. They've been setting it up for these 2 games now. So wherever it goes in that third one, and however that ends up, like they've done the work to set that up, and I'm curious to see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back to that first game. Like, they really don't.
They don't even really hint at it.
They don't hint at like
He's
many
just
of the They don't. What I was gonna say is like they haven't used a lot of the big characters like that, like evil people. Like the guy who like runs the organized crime. Like I recognize him from
Oh,
other Spider-Man.
Kingpin?
Yeah. So
Yep.
like I understand that one, but like there's no Sandman that we haven't seen yet. Like we saw him in the Raimi
Well, you'll
trilogy.
see him in number 2.
Well, I haven't. Yeah, I haven't.
Well, I
I
will
haven't
say
played
that.
that one yet. So like, I'm just
He's
thinking
right
about
there.
like in that first one. I haven't played Miles Morales yet, so
Yeah.
I don't know about that one
Great
either.
game.
But like,
They kind of do their own thing.
You saying like there's no
There's some
Green
Prowler
Goblin
stuff.
yet, which like he's the most notable bad guy.
Yeah.
I feel like when you think of the Spider-Man universe,
Yes.
haven't even seen him yet. Teasing him for the third one. I think
Yeah.
that's great because you could easily draw people in. Like when I think about the Batman games, let's say.
Mhm.
Like Arkham City, Arkham Asylum.
Fantastic.
There's another one. That I can't-
Arkham Knight.
Arkham Knight, thank you.
There's also an Arkham Origins that was made by a different studio.
Yeah, but
cool.
what I was gonna say though is like the Joker was the main villain in that one, easy draw, and
Yep.
then like you
Yeah.
play all these other villains that you definitely know in the Batman world, but the main draw was the Joker.
Yep.
But in the Spider-Man ones, they're not necessarily hitting you with that first notable bad guy to really draw you in. Like they made a real story out of it, which is what I appreciate and really like. Not that the Batman ones didn't have a story because I did enjoy those games, but
I still, the Arkham,
I still play them all the time.
Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, I still think
Still got them on the
fantastic.
360, you know?
Yeah, same.
But yeah, no, I was just
If
complimenting Spider-Man on how
Yes.
they've actually used a real story and not just the gimme, oh, everybody knows this guy, now you get to play against him.
Yeah, and I will say the other main antagonist for most of this game is Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah.
And they did a great job with that as well. Like, it creates a good villain to kind of pace you through most of the game because he can come into New York, the hunting ground, and bring all of his other hunters, and they give you a good folly to play against for like a medium sort of opponent for most of the game. And his whole thing is like pretty great. I mean, he's Kraven the Hunter. We kind of have a good idea of what his deal is. He just wants to fight the biggest fight that he can have. He comes to New York largely just fighting the villains because he doesn't take Spider-Man seriously because he doesn't kill. So the whole time he's just like, I'm not interested in you. You're not interesting. And then he gets the symbiote suit and he's like, oh, wait a minute. This is interesting. I actually do want to fight you now. And then by the time the symbiote suit goes off of him and goes back to Venom, Kraven looks at Venom and is like, I need to go after you. This is exactly what I've been looking for this whole time. You are the person I need to fight who can actually finally give me a good fight and end me. And it goes hard. And they actually, I will say, they let you play as Venom a couple times in these, like full Venom in these games.
Okay.
Because the thing that they do in the first one that they still do, they love their little side missions where you play as a person walking around.
Don't tell me it's MJ again.
There's a bunch of MJ missions. Maybe not a bunch, maybe the same amount, but they're still pretty much what they are. They give her a stun gun.
Oh, she's
helps a little bit.
A little useful now.
For the most part, I mean, anytime you rip me out of the Spider-Man suit, I'm just not as interested.
Yeah.
Even if I'm just one of the Spider-Man walking around, like I'm just
like in their normal clothes,
tough. There's a couple of those, but there's some MJ missions, and it's tough because a couple of the times when she's defeating people, I'm like, oh, these guys are not tough at all. If like MJ can just walk up with a stun gun and knock out one of the Kraven's hunters, like I don't know if they're as formidable as opponent as I thought they were. So you got to kind of straddle the line with that stuff. But there are some great side missions in this that are just like slow down and take your time and like be with the people in New York or whatever kind of stuff. There's a couple like tear jerkers actually in there. So there's a lot to like with this game. They added the wingsuit, which I was a little concerned about. I was like, I don't know if Spider-Man should just be flying around the whole time. That doesn't quite seem right to me. But it's balanced in a pretty good way, and it's similar stuff. Like you're just riding the waves, not the waves, the winds.
Wind. Yeah.
And you're not infinitely flying, so you're still
you're having to use the wind to like build momentum and all that
you're
stuff.
swinging, and then you're adding to the swing with the glide, and it's just like having a glider. So that works pretty well. And the map is twice as big, I guess, technically, because they added the whole other island to the right, which I'm not great with the New York geography.
Yeah.
I think it's like Queens and Brooklyn and
Yeah.
those kind of things. So fun game, solid game, not quite as innovative as I would have liked in some respects, but I was more impressed by the story than I thought I would have been. So we'll see at the end of the year where it pops up on my game of the year list, which is a more and more difficult.
I was gonna say you got a list of 25 games trying to get down to 10 here.
Yeah, but it's got a very good chance of ending up on that 10 for sure. We'll see how high it can go. But yeah, Spider-Man 2, pretty fun.
All right. Well, I can't wait to. Well, first I still need to play Miles Morales, which I'm pretty sure I
You
can find a
definitely do.
PS4 copy somewhere.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen that. And then for Spider-Man 2, well, I'll figure something out.
Yeah.
I'll figure something
We'll
out.
see. You got some time before 3. So
Yeah. Right.
I assume. I guess
Right.
I don't know.
Last bit of news. We were talking about it. We started the show off with it. It's only fitting that we end with it now. Tim Boyle has officially been named the starter against the Miami Dolphins.
Great.
And they bench Wilson for, is this the third time he's been benched now?
I guess.
I don't know. One too many times.
Yeah,
The Wilson experiment's done, right? I could see them using him as a starter if Boyle is just absolutely awful, but like this has to be the last year you have Zach Wilson on your roster, right? Like you have to.
Certainly seems like it. Keep
some way to dump him off. I don't know.
But
well, it's only year 2, but it feels like it's been 5 years with this guy. Or I guess no, it's been 3 years.
I think it's 3
years. Oh my goodness. Well, it still feels like it's been way, way longer.
Well, him and Mac Jones both probably being benched the same week. It's that quarterback class is looking a little bit more rough and rough. Fields is still out there surviving.
He's
playing for his job.
That's a good word, surviving.
Playing
because,
for his job right now.
Yeah, that's what it's been like. And then Trevor Lawrence is the other quarterback.
Who's been very up and down.
Yeah.
Had a good week this week, but was so bad previous to this that Jordan in our fantasy league literally benched him.
No.
And even though he played well, but he did not inspire enough confidence to be startable. So it's been pretty up and down over there.
All right, speaking of fantasy, one last question. Are you going to try to make any trades by the end of tonight? You don't have to tell me who, but if you're just interested in making any trades.
I don't think so. I just don't think I have the ammo at the position I'm at. I was feeling pretty confident in my starting lineup. The problem is Achane. I'm not sure if we'll be able to be healthy enough to get me through. At that point, my flex is pretty weak. I was thinking about a couple of running backs who I can maybe get for cheap and roll with through the end of the year. Like Jordan's got a couple, like a David Montgomery or Jalen Warren, which might be tougher to get just because
Singletary.
Yeah, well, Singletary, I kind of can't believe is doing what he's doing, but yeah, it's hard to get Jared on the phone at all. So certainly not play tonight. I don't think that'll be possible. I got Rashad Bateman for Tutu Atwell the other week, so
that was your trade?
That was me.
Oh man,
that was me.
Well, at least you got. Did you have Bateman?
No, I had Tutu. I traded for Bateman. I was like, I'm never gonna start Tutu again. Maybe I'll at least get a first round talent, see how it goes.
Yeah,
or second round or whatever he was.
See how it pans out if he stays on the field.
But I don't anticipate much from him. But it was like, ironically, Kupp got hurt, so maybe Tutu will become a thing again. But it was basically like, I'll trade him to the Rams fan. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, right. That's an easy trade.
So
there.
We'll see if Bateman does something. But I don't think I'll have anything in the books.
Yeah, I don't see myself making any trades either. The only thing I got to say about my team is I just need one more quarterback. I feel like, and I don't.
Like you had that quarterback. Too.
No, see, this is this is where we differ. Yes, I traded you Stroud, but I needed more receiver depth.
Yeah.
And so, like, I had my running backs, I had my quarterbacks, I guess, but like, I figured I could always lean back on O'Connell. I figured he was going to play at some point, which now he is. He's playing better than Pickett. So like,
yeah. I mean, I have the same problem because I now have no receiver depth. You have no quarterback depth, so we just swapped.
Yeah, we swapped our deficiencies.
So yeah, I'm looking for receivers. You're looking for quarterbacks. I just think it might be a little easier for me to find a receiver.
I thought I could buy low on a couple, but people are just asking too much.
Quarterbacks are just always a high price. Even like Levis, who you've been going after.
It's not gonna happen. I straight up told Mason, I was like, yeah, well, he's got nobody around him. Nobody's gonna be around him for the next couple of years. No. And ever since he had that 4 touchdown game, I don't think he's thrown a touchdown since.
Yeah, there's not much. Yeah, we said it with Tennessee. There's not much going on there. So regardless of how good he is, there's a pretty low ceiling on that offense, I would say.
Yeah.
He only threw like 17
Oh, I
times.
take that back. He had 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns the other day. But still, 158 yards on 17 attempts passing.
Yeah, and Henry didn't even rush for that much. It's like, I don't know where all their plays went, but
they had 19 rushing plays and 7. Well, it's just what it seems like. It seems like they had a few 3-and-outs and that's it. And just not extended drives.
Yeah.
I mean, they scored in the second half, but they were shut out in the first half. But yeah, it's just an interesting setup for our fantasy league. I don't see anybody making any like big moves necessarily.
There was a moment where Mahomes was on the block.
Well, he's on the block, but it doesn't mean he's going to get moved.
Mason's trying to get him. There's been some people trying to get him.
Mason, I could actually see getting him because he's got like 1,000 first-round picks to trade.
The asking price was pretty high from what I heard.
I heard a couple first-round picks.
I was beyond that.
Oh, so, my. I would love to see that come across.
Mason tapped out. So I don't think it'll happen.
Mason tapped out, huh?
He did.
And if he was probably the biggest one to try to make a push, then I don't anticipate anybody else making a push. Then.
I don't too much either. We'll have to see how the league rounds out this year.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right, well, that ends up Sportslandia for this week. Brian Slyke and Ray Bradley. Again, Sportslandia, part of the Next Professional Athlete brand. And a big thank you to Golden State Lumber for the studio space. We might be switching that up in a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not sure. We've spitballed a couple ideas, but you'll probably find out when we find out. That's the joy of this business.
Definitely.
All right. Thanks for tuning in for another week. We'll catch you next time.